Capo on the beat.
What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video, I got a good one for you. A lot of people ask me how I've made the splitter for the front of my car. That's exactly what I'm going to show you today. If you don't know what I'm talking about, here's a picture. So yeah, that's what I'm going to show you guys how I made. I'm going to be making one from scratch with you guys and walking you through each step. Really not that complicated, you know, basic hand tools and whatnot. Not expensive by any means. $100 for a perfect looking splitter like this, worth it. So other than that, I'm going to jump in right into showing you how I'm doing it. There's going to be multiple steps, and yeah, if you haven't subscribed yet already, make sure you subscribe. I have a lot of videos like this showing you guys how I've done certain things on my car, and I also have a lot of racing with my supercharged 2-valve, which you see right there. So make sure you subscribe. But other than that, let's jump in straight into the video. Let's get it. Alright, so here we are. We're going to be working on how to make this splitter. What you're going to need, a piece of cardboard, something like that, because you're going to need to make a template. I already have the one I've made here because I'm filming the first part after I already completed it, but right there is my splitter. So I'm just about ready to install it, but first I'm going to show you guys how to make the template and whatnot. So going to need a big piece of cardboard like that, Sharpie, ruler, something to measure, and you're going to have to get the car in the air so you're able to get under it. So as you can see, this is the general shape you're looking for. You have the exact same line as the bumper, and if I didn't mention already, to be able to do it the way I did it, you're going to need the Mach 1 chin spoiler. So you're going to be following that exact shape just like that. And then in the back, you're following the inside of the bumper, which I'll show you in a second, down and the inside of the bumper, which is exactly where I get from right here. You can see exactly what I'm talking about. You follow this inside line because this is where you're going to be mounting it. Follow this inside line. I went straight across. Went on that inside because you see I have my mounting holes right there. So you're going to need to trace that out. But the hardest part is getting the outside lip. So I'm going to show you guys how I did that. Okay, so now that you got your big piece of cardboard, like I said you need to go underneath the car. I realized that if you just take the whole front bumper off and are able just to sit it on the ground on top of the piece of cardboard, it'll make your life a whole lot easier. So just take the extra 3 minutes, take the front bumper off, or else you're gonna have to do something like me and be able to get the piece of cardboard high enough so it's flat with the underneath of the car. Like I said, just take the bumper off and set it on the ground on top of the piece of cardboard. Makes it a whole lot easier. But if you wanna make things harder, like I did, you're gonna have to make the cardboard flat with the underneath of the car because you're gonna have to trace. Like I said, I'll give you the exact measurements with how far I came out and how far, like around, like I did, and I'll give you the exact measurements because I have my template right there. There's my finished product right there, and here's my template. So once you get the piece of cardboard flat with the underneath of the car, all you're really gonna have to do is get a ruler or a scale, whatever you wanna call it, and you're going to want to, here's the exact measurements. So the measurements from the exact center of the chin spoiler to the edge of my lip, I believe I did about 3.5, I think it was. Yeah, just about 3.5 inches. And then gradually from this point, I think I brought it down to about almost 3.25. I kind of just eyeballed it, honestly. But here's a rough estimate. To the very outside of the car, I made it about just over 3.25. And then at the very end, this point, it meets up. So like you're coming around here, and I just hand drew it until it met up with that corner, right? So you'll have 3.5 inches out here, down to almost a 3.25 about here, and then connect it. I kind of just eyeballed it. I had 3 inches here and I just put dots. Just gradually closer and closer, and then just eyeballed it with hand, and then just try to, as close as I could, do the exact same thing on the other side. But That's how far it's gonna stick out, about 3.5 inches. If that gives you a rough estimate. Hold on, 3.5. That's how far it's gonna stick out. I tried multiple different sizes and 3.5 was the best looking in my opinion. You could either make it closer or you can make it farther. Like I said, you're just gonna have to sketch it by hand. There's no right way to do it. I just went 3.5 in the front and then tried to make it symmetrical on each sides. That's all you really can do. There's no template I could really tell you any other way, but you gotta be somewhat of an artist, I guess. So once you get that, I'll show you how to cut out the underside, and then you got to transfer that onto a piece of plastic, and then you're almost done. So here's a little better version of what I was talking about in the first clips. It sits back to about there, right? So like I said, 3 inches off there, and then just gradually went and connected it on the inside or on the outside. If you see those two holes, those are where the splitter rods went. But yeah, I'm gonna crawl underneath, show you where I cut underneath. But this is just a template. Like I said, you'll take your piece of cardboard, your piece of wood in my case, and put it on top of a sheet of plastic, cut that out. So this is just a template, so treat it as such. Doesn't need to be perfect. You can shape the piece of plastic later. But let me show you how I cut it underneath. So now that I'm underneath the car, like I said earlier, you just kind of want to follow the shape of your bumper. And I just solid it exactly, just like that. See where my holes are? And I have a hole there. I made a little L bracket, and that's how I mounted it. I didn't just use this. I had other mounting points, which I'll show you later in the video. But yeah, so I cut with the bumper, just like that, went a little up, straight across, and followed the bumper till the end point. And once again, like, if you have any questions on how I did certain things, feel free to drop a comment. There's multiple ways you can do this. I've never seen anyone else do it, so I'm the first one to do it. So there's going to be a lot of questions, but you kind of have to figure it out as you go because there's not any answers. There's no really right way to do this. So just try to draw it the best you can, and then if you have to trim, you have to trim. Just make it bigger than you have to because you can't add materials. So after you get your template, just like this, we'll move on to step 2. So here we go. Okay, now that you made your template, what you're wanting to do is get your big piece of ABS plastic. I got a big piece. When I mean big, I think it's 4 by 8 feet because I figured I'd make 2 if I was making 1. But I got 1/4 inch thick, like I said, 4 by 8 sheet. It's shiny on one side, kind of, not really. It's kind of not good, but I'm putting this side up. This is hair cell on the top, I think they call it. It's a little textured. I like that. I was scared that if I did too shiny, it would just get scratched up and then never be able to get it out. So now that I have my template all laid out, I'm tracing it, and then I'm gonna pull it off, and then I'm going to take my saw and just run around the edges, get the general shape out of it, and then from there, fine it down a little bit, sand the edges, and then you'll have your splitter. And I'll show you how I'm mounting it to the car. So first step, like I said, was getting your general shape, which I showed you how to do. Now you gotta lay it on top of your ABS plastic, cut it out. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. All right, so I just cut out my biggest piece. This is the front of the splitter. Came around the side. Actually came out pretty good. I mean, it's not too bad. I mean, there's places like that I'll have to fix up. But I mean, if you wanted a better image of what the front's gonna look like, it has a pretty good texture to it. But cut pretty smooth all in here. But yeah, cut pretty smooth all in here. I can show you exactly what blade I'm using. It's not anything too fine because I noticed if you use one that's too fine, it'll start melting the plastic and it starts melting back together. So when I used one like this, it was too fine. and it was just melting the plastic and not really cutting it. So once I went to the bigger one, which I don't know if there's a number on the blade or anything, but made it a lot easier. So gonna reposition the plastic and finish the rest of the cutting. So let's do it. All right, about a lot of cutting later, got the general shape out. As you can see, it turned out pretty good. Like I said, got to clean up the edges and stuff like that, but I'll sand that all down. Might be taking some material out of here because this is a lot heavier than my old one, and I might be putting holes through here just to free up some weight, but looks pretty good. Gonna sand out those edges, and then I'll show you how to mount it up on the car. So let me get to cleaning this up and move on to the next step. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the next step, and this is gonna be the tedious, but not as tedious as cutting it out. We're gonna work on sanding down the edge, because the way I did it when I traced my template, like I said earlier, you can make it out of cardboard. I trace it on here, I cut to the front edge of the line, and then I'll sand to the back edge of the line. Let me show you what I mean real quick. So if you look, here's my line. I cut it to this edge of the line, and then I'll get my sanding tool, which I'll show you what I use in a second, and I'll sand to the back of the line. So that's what we're gonna do on this step. So to sand that down, I am using this grinder. It's an air grinder. You don't have to use this. You can use a palm sander, but you can also use it by hand. I'm also using a block with 100 grit on it. My 90 degree has a 40 grit on it. So I'll use the 40, and then once I get it somewhat close, I'll come around with the 100 grit to get the final shape, and then to get all the scratches out of the edge, I'll use 150 and then into like 320 just to make it look perfect. So I can show you what it looked like before, and I already did half the splitter, and I can show you what it looks like after. So here we go. So before I started sanding, it's really rough, you know, the shape's not perfect. Like I said, I'm on the outside of the line, and then I finished this side, and this is kind of my final shape. It's really nice and smooth, and that's what the sanding does. So you're able to get the palm sander or your block, and you can just get the shape down to what you want. So like I said, this part's not that difficult. You just got to be careful that you don't sand too far, because you obviously can't add any material, so you just got to be careful, take your time. It's a little tedious, but once you get this step done, I'll show you guys how to mount it, and you're basically done. So you're almost there, so let's get it. All right, I'm back here working on it. I got all my L brackets in, which I'll show you in a second. But the next step is going to be putting the splitter rods on, which, if you don't know where they come down in the front. You don't have to do this, you can find another way, but it helps with the support in the front. Some people don't like the way it looks. I like the way it looks, so that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna mount in the front. I'm done with the ones in the back, which I'll show you in a second. And then I'll show you 2 or 4 other mounting points, and then you're done. So you're almost there, so let's keep chugging along. But here are the L brackets that I made and where they're mounted, and I'll show you what I did. Okay, so here are my 3 L brackets. I have 3 on each side. But as you can see, follow the contour of the bumper. It goes up there, and then it, just like that. That's literally it. And then I got 2 screws on each, just like that. So that's the 3 mounting points on this side, and I have 3 on the other. And then I'm gonna show you one that's more in the center here, and then the 2 rods that are in the front. So do the L brackets. I made them out of just a little piece of aluminum, not that difficult. You can use a hand grinder or anything like that, bandsaw, whatever you got. There might be another way to do it, but that's how I did it. So let's keep chugging along. All right, so once you get these, I'll have a link for these in the description, by the way, but I just put a piece of tape down, take a measurement from here and here, and I just step back and eyeball where I kind of want them to go. Thought that looked good, so I kind of just sent it. You just have to eyeball it as close as you can. I just have them going right up into there. I know they're not supposed to go into plastic, This whole thing's for looks, so it really doesn't bother me. But then yeah, and then there's just a nut on the other side. I'm gonna put a washer and a nut and possibly a lock washer. All right, so I got those tightened up. Ignore all the bugs on my front bumper. Car needs a wash. But the hardest part is getting those nuts on the back of there. You have to reach your hand inside the bumper and no look it. It's tough, but this is what it looks like. Looks really good. I like the little angle I gave them. Looks good, so I'm happy with it. Now we're just gonna put our screws through the center section and we're good. All right, so I'm gonna walk you through the last mounting points, right? So you had a mounting point there for your splitter rod, mounting point there for your splitter rod. You had 1, 2, 3 on each side that were connecting you to that. Those were the L brackets. That's what connected you to the bumper. Next, what I did, I put a screw right here in between those two, a screw here in between those two, a screw here just outside of this one, and then one right in the center. And they were, I know this sounds bad, I just use decking screws with washers. I know it sounds bad, but it'd be a lot easier if I had the front bumper off the car. That way you could put a screw or a bolt through the splitter into the bumper and then be able to get on the other side and put a washer. I left the bumper on the car, so I just shoved decking screws already right through there, and that works. I know it works because I already had the splitter on the car for over a year with that exact same thing, and I just went back in the same holes that I used before. So I know it works, and by the looks of it, it's very, very sturdy. So may sound bad, but that's what I ended up doing. All right, I'm gonna take you into the car and show you the underneath, all the mounting points, final product, and then I'll get a little cinematic for you guys. So let me take you into the car. So under the car, here's my hand, right? You have your mounting point for your splitter. You have one here, one there, one in between those, your L brackets, your 3 L brackets, and you have one in the middle. Very sturdy. And then the same thing on the other side. So in total, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 mounting points. It's very, very sturdy, I promise. So now that we're all mounted up, I'm gonna do a short little walk around video, a little cinematic, and we're gonna end today's video.
Ryan Little.
That's gonna do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully I gave you an idea of how you can do this. Once again, you can do it multiple different ways. This is how I did it. I know it works because I tested it for over a year. It looks great, as you saw in the video before, but thanks for watching. If you have any questions, drop a comment below. Make sure you guys subscribe. I have a lot of videos like this, a lot more to come, a lot of racing videos, so make sure you stay tuned, but I'll see you guys next time.